Hey guys, Becky here, FiveTwoBaker, welcome back. So this week we are working on these beautiful parrot tulips. I love how wild and free each of the petals are. So I wanted to share with you guys how it is that I get all this movement to create some beautiful flowers. I hope you guys love this as much as I do, but let's get right to it. So let's start off by rolling out some flower paste in whatever color we like for our petals. I'm rolling mine out very thick because, as you can see, the veiner that I'm using has some very deep veins. And even after I vein it, I'm still going to stretch the petal out further with my Dresden tool, so I need it to have some thickness to be able to stretch and not rip right away. I don't know how thick it is, but hopefully this helps you visually to see that. The cutter that I'm using is very basic. You could even cut it out by hand if you needed to. There's no frills or anything on this. It's just a basic tulip cutter. I go ahead and cornstarch my veiner and then also my flower paste because it's very warm today and so it's very sticky. And I line it up right in my veiner. And then I go ahead and give it a gentle but firm press. Again, this is pretty thick for a standard flower petal, so I'm not really scared of ripping it. And this is what it looks like. It's pretty, but it's not done. It has a lot of veins, but there's not really much shape. I'm going to go ahead and add about a 26-28 gauge wire in here. Thicker if you want it to stand up firmer on its own, thinner if you're okay with it flopping a bit. I put it in the thickest part of the center and then pinch the end to get it to really stay on there. Now on a foam board, I'm going to take my Dresden tool, and everywhere that I see that the veins are already there from the veiner, I go ahead and take my Dresden tool and going from the center out, I'm just dragging it out a bit more. I'm gentle towards the center so it's not too thin there, but then I go a little harder on the ends so that I get it to be very thin and frilly and give it a lot of movement and shape. I'm going to go ahead and do this throughout the entire petal. And you can't really go wrong here, I feel, because even if it rips, the petal is so wild and crazy and goes in every which way that I rip it on purpose a bunch of times just to give it more movement. So as long as you leave your center a bit more intact so that it doesn't just fall off the wire, the ends are totally free game. And here, the harder you go on the ends, the frillier and more wavy it'll be. Then using an aluminum foil mold, I'm going to go ahead and sit it on there. The foil is shaped almost like a little sofa cushion, a little chair for the petal. And these are all made different. There is no one form that I use for these petals. Now for the center pistil, I measure how high I want it. On tulips, they're pretty short and chunky, so I just sort of eyeball it, see where I want it. I grab my flower paste, adhere it by using my carrier wire dipped in glue, putting it in the center, and then pinching the flower paste on the bottom of it. And then I make almost like a little mushroom cap top to it. So I want it to be pretty chunky all around the base, get a little bit thinner towards the top, and then have a little top hat all the way at the very top. Once I'm happy with that, then I go ahead and take some offset tweezers and I pinch in 3 areas so that there are 3 little prongs sticking out. And then at the center of each of them, I go ahead and take those same tweezers and I make a little indent at the very top. I set that off to dry. And now for my little stamens, using a very thin wire, something like a 28, maybe even a 30 gauge, I use a little bit of flower paste, and I make this about the same height as my center pistil. I go ahead and twiddle it to the very top, and then using my thumb, I pinch the top to give it a little neck. There's going to be a long pointy top at the very tip of it, a neck, and then the chunky base of it. Hopefully you can get a good image of what that looks like here. And I'm going to go ahead and make about 5 of these. Now to color it, you can color this any which way you like. I'm just showing you the way that I enjoy the most. I'm using a brush that has a stiff bristle and is pretty thin because I'm going to run the green through the veins, and I really want it to get in there, so I don't want anything big and fluffy right now. I love the look of green on it. It just looks so fresh and springy to me, so I'm putting it on the petals, and there's no rhyme or reason. I just put it any which place it lands, wherever feels right. I try not to be symmetrical and just go with it. And then I'm using 2 greens. I start off with a bright green and then use a dark green on top of it, trying not to mimic everything the same. I want 2 different shades, sort of like a highlight and contour. Now I'm taking just a little bit of a bright pink and I'm putting it around the edges, dragging it towards the center. Again, no real symmetry here, no real, you just go with what feels right. You want to put it there, you just dab it on there. And then I go in with a very thin brush and I do a dark red. This red, it's thicker in some areas and very thin and drawn out in others because, again, I want it to look a little bit wild and free. And with all these colors, I'm going a little bit lighter to begin with because after I steam them to set the color, I noticed that these colors are popping a lot more. So I want it to be lighter than what I want the end game to be. Hopefully that makes sense. And I just go through this random painting process for each of the petals. Now for the center pistil, I just go up and down the entire thing with a bright green. For the stamen, I go up and down with all black, and then I steam these as well just to set the color. Now to assemble it, I go ahead and wrap some green floral tape around the base of the pistil, and then I wrap each of my 6 or 5 stamen around it. I'm not exactly sure how many are supposed to be, and I put a different amount in each flower, so whatever seems right. You want it to be really tight at the base so you don't see any gaps. We want this to appear realistic, so we don't want to see all the wires. And then once you're happy with how those are placed, you go ahead and pick the 3 petals that appear to be most cupped to you and most closed, and we're going to use those as the center. You wrap those around with the floral tape, and then your other 3, you go ahead and wrap where the center petals meet. So where 2 center petals meet, you go ahead and put an outer petal and you go around so that they're overlapping. When you're wrapping your floral tape around, definitely use your thumb if you have to push it up towards the base of the flower so that your wires are hidden and so that you can get your petals as close to the base as possible. And because it's a tulip, it has a thicker green stem at the base of the flowers, so I'm not even worried about having too much tape there. I just wrap it around, and once I'm happy, I go ahead angling the tape at a 45 degree and wrap it all the way down the stem of the flower. And that is it. You just make your final adjustments, open it up however you like, and your tulip is beautiful and ready to be used. As always, if you enjoyed this tutorial, please do give it a thumbs up and don't forget to hit subscribe if you haven't already. I would super appreciate that. And if you have any questions, drop them down in the comments below and I'll make sure to get back to you. If not, I will see you guys for the next tutorial.